First I'm going to list some basic tools and supplies that you might need. You need a saw and saw blades. This is the saw. The blade is a skinny little thing, and it has to be under tension in here. So if you can hear it. If it doesn't do that, it won't cut and it will break. You break a lot of them. So I'm just going to hand this around, and this bag has 3 saw blades in it. Maybe I should just leave them in the bag. I know they're very small. And I'm just going to pass this around, and you can take the saw blades. There are 3 different sizes. And for the thinner metals, you use a little tiny one. For the thicker metals, use a big one. Then you need files. Just regular files, but usually smaller files. I use needle files a lot. This is a whole set of cheapy needle files from Harbor Freight, and those will do fine for starters. And then, of course, you find out that someday you want some better ones. And so there are lots of people who will sell you better files. I don't know if you want to hand these.
But you don't need better ones.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
They're nice, but you don't have to have them. You can get along with the cheapy ones. Then you need, this is another kind of handy file. This is a Riffler file. They're curved, and I have a whole set of them. These are just 2, and they have a different kind of curve on each end. These you cannot get at Harbor Freight. I tried. They didn't know what they were. So these,
What
these
would you
you
use
can,
these for? That
these, if you want to file something that's curved, if there's a place that's hard to get into, these are really, they're handy. And
So
you
you
find,
watch the audience, there's file thieves in the audience. Just right in my pocket.
and then pliers. The important thing about pliers is that they need to have smooth jaws, because the ones with teeth inside will mark your metal. And these, you can get these little ones, which I dearly love. These are chain nose pliers, and you can get them at Hobby Lobby. This is another handy one for making loops. These are round nose pliers, and these are flat. And those are really the 3 kinds that you need to get started. And there are so many kinds of pliers that you wouldn't believe it. Someday look at the Rio Grande catalog, and they have pliers for this and that, and they have the weirdest kind of jaws. And anyway, but those are enough to get started. And then a wire cutter, not a big one, but a little one like this. Then you need some kind of bench or table to work on. And this is nice if you can get one. This is a jeweler's bench. And it's about 10 inches taller, 8-10 inches taller than your regular table. But you don't use a high chair with it. You use a regular chair, and that means that your workspace hits you about here, and you don't have to bend over all the time. That's why this is important. This is a bench pin, and this little part here fits into this part here. And so you can put your piece of metal on here and saw it because it's being supported, and you can saw in this space. If you put it in this way, it's got a sloping top. If you put it in, turn it over, put it in the other way, it has a flat top, which is nice for sawing. The sloping top is nice for filing. These 2 things here are armrests that you can pull out so you have some place to put your elbows. And then this is for storage, and this is not a drawer. This you pull out and it catches your filings so that you don't have to lose them on the floor. You can save them and send them in and sell them as scrap. Anything, any failure that you have, anything that you don't like, goes into the scrap box and you sell it back.
Where do you find that bench?
Well, I find just about everything at Rio Grande.
Rio Grande.
Yes.
They have them on eBay, but they're not any cheaper than they are on Rio Grande.
Yeah.
They have everything, and that's where I stole these pictures from, their website. If you only have a table, you can get one of these. And this just clamps onto any table, and it has the same kind of V in it so that you can saw. That's what I had when I first took jewelry classes at Southern Connecticut State College. They didn't have jeweler's benches for us. They had these and a table, but it worked fine. Okay, let's go back. Okay, you will need a drill and some bits, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And then you need things for finishing your jewelry, like sandpaper, abrasive wheels, compounds, all kinds of things.
A pickle pot.
A pickle pot, we'll get to that in a moment.
We want to talk pickles.
Anyway, this is really nice. This is a flex shaft machine, and if you can get one of these, it's wonderful. This is the Cadillac of flex shafts. This is a Fordham. What you do is hang this up. You stick up a pole on your bench or your table, and you hang this from it. It works with this football pedal, so you can control the speed with your feet, and you have both hands free to work. And they're wonderful. You may not be able to get one right away if you're just starting out, in which case you can make do with a Dremel. I've seen some cheaper ones on Amazon. I don't know how good they are. Grobet makes a pretty good one that's a little cheaper than this.
What's this one?
This one, with all that stuff, it runs 300 something. But
A lot of earrings.
it's a lot of earrings, but it's so worth it. Of all the tools that I have, that's the one that I wouldn't want to part with. All the
That
power
price
tools.
includes a power cord.
That's true, Clark. Okay. And let's see, I have, this is a selection of things that you can put into your flex shaft. This is a wheel for putting satin finish on metals. These are abrasive wheels. They're silicone with abrasive embedded. And this is another shape you can use for the insides of holes, insides of rings. And then this is a little felt buff. You can put a polishing compound on. This one's been used pretty well. And this is a little brush. And you would do the same thing. You would put a polishing compound on that.
What type of metals do you tend to work with?
I work with silver, sometimes copper, a little bit of gold. I would like to work with more gold, but it's not. Sterling silver is nice and strong, but it oxidizes easily. And you can get something called fire scale,
Right.
which is an oxide that forms beneath the surface, and you have to polish quite a bit to get it off, and you do need to get it off. So you can use flux. If you put flux on your metal before you heat it up, you can prevent some of it, but usually not all of it. So you will need also a torch, a soldering surface, a pickle pot and pickle. And the pickle pot is, I use a regular crock pot, circular crock pot. They're only about $15, but there's a little one that you can get that's even cheaper, it's good for starters. The pickle is a solution of weak acid. It is sodium bisulfate. It's the same stuff they use to keep your swimming pool at the right pH. You can buy swimming pool stuff, but they have, it's called Sparex, or Real Pickle, or whatever the company happens to call it. But you need that after you do some soldering or you heat up your metal. You need to pickle it to get the oxides off and the flux off.
Do you have to do that with gold and copper also? Does it have to go into the pickle
Yeah, you
pot?
pretty much have to pickle it after you solder it.
Okay.
How's copper to work with? Is it as tough as silver?
Copper is pretty easy to work with. The only thing is that you use silver solder on copper, and so you can see sometimes a silver seam between your copper pieces, but there's a way to fix that. Okay, so
Why is it called a pickle pot? Where does that come from? Do you know?
I don't know, but it's always, it's just what it's called, it's pickle.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, you know how they clean cucumbers.
No.
Nothing
think
to
we
do
peeled
with, nothing to do with cucumbers. Okay. Now you can start with the butane torch. You can make small pieces with the butane torch. What you can't do with the butane torch is if you want to make a lot of heavy cuff bracelets, you can't solder. You can't get that a big piece of metal hot enough with a butane torch. It's really not hot enough to fire enamels. You can't do that with it. But you can make small pieces. So you can go to Bed Bath & Beyond and get one of these for $50. Get some solder and just try it. You know, you can start with very little. The torches that I have are these two. This is my favorite right here. This is an air acetylene torch. It's got one tank. It's got a regulator. This part tells you what the pressure is in the tank, how much gas you've got. This one tells you what the pressure is in the hose coming to the torch. This is the torch down here, and the acetylene comes through the hose and the air comes in right there. There's some little holes right there. And I have 4 tips. I can melt metal with that, I can do soldering, I can do heavy bracelets. You can do just about everything with this torch.
What about MAP or propane?
Yeah, you can use propane. Propane works fine, and it burns cleaner than acetylene does. I don't use propane because I work in the basement, and propane is a heavier gas. And acetylene is very light. It's C2H2, and it just goes up and dissipates in the air. If you're working in a basement and you have a propane leak, the propane will tend to puddle because it's heavier. And when you get to butane, which has 1 more carbon in it, I'm a chemist, can you tell? Then that is a liquid. So I use acetylene, but propane is very good. And if you're working upstairs, outdoors, it's fine. Garage, sure. I just don't want a puddle of propane in the basement that I don't know about. This one is an oxyacetylene torch, and it's called the Little Torch. These are both made by Smith. And it is about half the size of this one. These are close to being in scale, these 2 pictures. So we have an oxygen tank. It's green. The hose is green. It's always green. And this is acetylene, 2 regulators. And you can get a hotter flame out of this one. It comes with 7 tips, and it's good for making things like this. This is a chain bracelet that I made, and I soldered all the links, and it's really nice to have a tiny flame. So the way you can solder this is to take this. This is a handy tool. It's called a 3rd hand. And you put your chain together, then you put in the first link, and you solder it. You put in the second link, and you solder it, and it holds it in place. So this is a really handy thing to have. I have another one that I like even better than this. But these links are all soldered together.
So you made each one of the links?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I made the
And this
jump rings.
Is this sterling silver?
It's sterling silver, yes. So this
How
is a
long-
handy tool too,
How
and
long
it's
did it
not
take you to make
expensive.
something like that?